While we're talking about extraterrestrial technology, we can talk about how it seems like they are maneuvering their spacecraft. I use the term spacecraft because that's a term that, we humans are more familiar with, but I really don't think that they actually flew billions and billions of light years to Earth to, spy on us. I don't think it's like that. I don't think they flew here. I think they got here, making sure you have all your cute little gummy bears snacks for your long trip to Earth. No, I don't think it's like that at all. I think they're just getting here. I think they are traveling in general with gravity distortions. And if you don't know, gravity and time are very much correlated. So what they are doing is manipulating gravity to also manipulate their time. So when you see their spacecraft flying very, very, very quickly, and making these ridiculous maneuvers that any animal human body could never withstand, they're not actually making those moves. What they're doing is skipping time. So the time that you would have seen them move, they just skip that time to move. So they're constantly chasing distortion every time. Each one is a little distortion, little distortion, little distortion, which is an entire gravity distortion, which is a distortion of their time. So, there's one point where the pilot, David Fravor, says that, oh, he was in front of me, then all of a sudden he's behind me. How did he do that?
There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any sign of visible control surfaces like wings. It rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. The controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cat point, roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute. You can calculate the speed."
That extraterrestrial was not operating his spacecraft in the same linear plane that we are. He skips it. Because he has that potential. He has that capability of just skipping. That's what you get for 1,000,000 years of progress, that's what it is. And that's very similar to what Bob Lazar said of chasing a distortion in gravity, and they're constantly chasing a distortion to move. So it's not like they're actually being propelled by anything to keep them up or propulsion of any sort.
It produces a heart-shaped gravitational distortion around the craft. Now, if the craft is sitting in the air and you walk underneath it and look up, you actually cannot see the craft. The light bends around it. You're bending gravity, bends light. It bends radio waves.
Space-time and gravity are all essentially interrelated. They all act on one another. Gravity bends space. Gravity also distorts time. When you vary one, you essentially vary the other two. Because space-time and gravity are all interrelated, if you could produce gravity artificially, an extremely intense field of gravity, what you could do is actually distort the distance between two objects and make it shorter. Not just distorting the distance, but now you're also decreasing the time between the two places.
Inertia is not going to affect it.
What happens is a great gravity distortion is created, and you're essentially bending space toward the craft. The craft becomes part of that space. When the gravity amplifiers are shut down, the craft is essentially where it was focused. It's a very difficult thing to grasp. It happens virtually instantaneously because of the fact that gravity distorts time. And if you're bending space and time along with it, when you wind back up in that place, you're there between the ticks of a clock. Once they're hovering in the air, they'll swing the two remaining gravity generators up in front of them and create a distortion.
There's a gravitational envelope in there which negates any inertia effects.
Why actually spend the time to physically move yourself if you can just skip the time that it took to get from point A to point B? Just skip it. It makes more sense.